Hello and welcome to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm your host, Ryan, and joining me today is the man, Garrett G, dubbed as the world's best calmer. We've got the new RLCS pro, Satthew. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, it's good to have you. We had you on before. Um,
Mhm.
we didn't get to have a whole lot of one-on-one time with you, though.
Yeah, that was a group podcast. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that was chaotic.
Yeah, it
I,
was.
I after I started that episode, I was questioning my own sanity on it because there were some parts I really couldn't tell who was talking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
But guys, if you didn't know, this is episode 31 of Around the Scene. We're here every Wednesday for you to get your fix on all things Rocket League. If you like this, be sure to give us a follow or sub on Twitch, YouTube, or your podcast service of choice. Also, consider supporting the show by kicking us a buck over on patreon.com/playingwithrockets. Shout out to our Patreon sponsors for the month of November. We got Kelvin Winter, Father of Five, Jonesy, and Nao. We thank them so much for their support. And then special shout out to Nexum Crash over on Reddit, who gave us an RLCS Emerald Pro Wheel code to give away. We're going to be doing a RLCS LAN Pick'ems tournament, and then the best bracket for that, they're going to be the ones who receive those wheels. So be on the lookout. We're going to release that information hopefully in the coming weeks right before RLCS, but only if you're a podcast listener will you be able to hear that info as we drop it. For those of you who don't know, we are recording this episode. This is not a live episode. Just due to time constraints and the joy of Thanksgiving, schedules got thrown around. So I appreciate you working with me, man.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But we're going to go into our news segment. We got 4 items today. The first bit of news is Rocket Pass 5 has been announced. Have you seen the video on this one?
I have it. It's a very ambitious trailer. I loved it though.
It's very
Oh,
anime.
it is very anime, and I'm not against that. I'm not against that.
Do you watch anime?
Recently, I've kind of gotten into it. I
Oh,
watched like
okay.
a series or two, like what is it? I think it's Hunter x Hunter was one of them.
Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hunter. Yeah, 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 yeah. I,
Yeah.
I, I actually enjoyed that. That
That was
was
that
fun.
was good. I've
Yeah.
been I've been getting into one that's airing right now called Vinland Saga. It's like Vikings and stuff. It's
Oh wow.
actually really good. I
Okay.
wasn't sure how good it was going to be, but I saw a bunch of people talking about it, and I was like, I gotta get in on this one.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to take a look at that.
I'm a huge weeb, so if you ever want anime recommendations, I got you covered.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll come to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Rocket Pass 5, this one, gonna read a little bit of a quote from them. So, quote, every hero has a journey. Yours begins in Rocket Pass 5 on December 4th. Following the blueprint update, prepare to find your inner strength and climb to the pro tiers to be the best like no one ever was. This is just such a Pokemon thing. Upgrade to Rocket Pass Premium and wield the power of the newest card, Chikara. This anime-inspired supercar will be unlocked immediately, and the Chikara GTX will be waiting for you at Tier 70. Rocket Pass 5 features 70 new tiers of items to unlock, including holosphere wheels, metallograph, animated decal. That was a mouthful to say. The 3 new goal explosions, but the journey doesn't end there. Unlock the pro tiers beyond Tier 70 and get painted and special edition versions of select Rocket Pass 5 items. Your challenge awaits. Rocket Pass 5 has brand new weekly challenges in both the free and Rocket Pass Premium tracks. You'll be able to complete weekly challenges from previous weeks throughout Rocket Pass 5 to get the pro tiers even faster, just like in Rocket Pass 4. Rocket Pass 4 ends on December 3rd, the day before the Blueprint update, so there's still time to get the pro tiers if you haven't yet. Rocket Pass 5 will begin on December 4th following the update. So stay focused, train hard, and get ready for your Rocket Pass 5 journey. End quote. That's such a long thing to read, but I don't know how I get myself through those, but I do it. Do you? I've always been curious. How quickly do you pro level players finish these challenges, or do y'all even bother with them?
Ooh, that's actually the challenges or like the pass.
Like they're little challenges of like, oh, do get like 5 goals or assists in an extra game mode.
I, to be honest, like the first week they came out, I looked at them. I haven't looked at them since. I think I
You kind
saved
of
for
forgot they were
most
there, didn't
players.
you?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, yeah.
I always was wondering like if any pros actually bother going through to do any of those.
Yeah, to my knowledge, no, I don't think so.
No, I often forget that they're there myself, so I wasn't expecting it to be much of a different answer from you, but I was just curious.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
You got. I mean, it's just the Rocket Pass 5. It's another Rocket Pass. They've been doing 4 of these already. I mean, not a whole lot to discuss on it. But is there anything that you want to add on it before we move on?
Um, I think just pointing out that now it's to upgrade to that premium pass, it's 1,000 credits because that update coming out, we're switching to credits instead of keys. So that's it's a big change in the ecosystem of Rocket League.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that part because that is when they dropped the blueprint thing.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting. I'm really curious how it's going to work because even after reading everything, I still kind of don't understand it all.
There's some vagueness for sure.
It just feels like it feels like one of those things that they just need to show us a demo of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because reading it there's just so many parts to it that I'm like, it's a revealed blueprint, but you can trade it if it's unrevealed, or you can't trade it. Like, it's also kind of convoluted and confusing to me.
It's a little complex. Definitely not as simple as I thought it was going to be.
No, and that's what I thought too. Is I thought it was going to be a very simple system to put in place, but it seems much more complicated than everybody initially thought.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah,
but we'll find out on that one soon how complex it actually is.
Yeah, December 4th, right?
Yeah, December 4th is when they drop it, and so we'll be able to discuss more of that before the next episode. It's actually the day of the new episode that it comes out, so we'll find out. We'll be able to tell you a little bit more. But we're going to move on to our next bit of news. This one concerns you. Afterthought and RBG Esports have auto-qualified into RLCS Season 9 for North America. How does it feel to be back, man?
I'd say, if anything, it's just a relief. Just because, it was obviously somewhat depressing to get dropped. I had lots of questions of self-doubt and, just wondering if this game is for me, if I even have the skill or what it takes anymore to even be at the level, let alone succeed at RLCS level.
Yeah.
But we answered the question of that first part, and that's being at that level, and I can confidently say that I feel like I should be there, and my team should be there.
Yeah. I mean, you guys came in through the play-ins. There wasn't a doubt in anybody's mind that you guys were going to make it through that. But how was it going through those? I mean, I imagine that you guys felt pretty confident in yourselves, but you have Shock, who he's been to RLRS before, and then he kind of fell out. He had some trouble trying to, he had teams dropping him right before the roster locks and stuff. So I know his path's been rough. And then Dapper, his story speaks for itself along with yours. I mean, y'all's team has been through a lot collectively. And so I kind of want to just take a detour for a moment and just kind of ask you a little bit about that journey, because you guys really busted your butts to get back to this point.
Yeah, for sure. So it was kind of a weird journey because we, at least at the beginning, we were all kind of on different pages because, Shock was just hungry as hell. He just wants to get back.
I can imagine.
He hates seeing all his friends. He loves seeing them all promote and do well, but he wants to be there with him.
Yeah, well, and especially because he, if you're in his position, you're at that level with them.
Yeah.
You played right alongside them, so I can imagine how that feels.
Yeah, so, Shock's out here ready to just do anything and everything to make it. Complete opposite side of the spectrum. I'm over here, before we even team, I'm telling Shock, listen, man, I was kind of rooting against myself. I was like, look, man, I'm not feeling so good after getting dropped. I'm focused on college. I'm kind of liking my field and statistics right now. I love all this. If I were you, I'd try my options before we team. And he tried with Karma and Jaywiz. He had the spot actually.
Oh, really?
He had the spot, and some crazy part of his brain said, you know what, I am not confident with this team versus Satthew and Dapper, even though his scrims went decent.
That is so interesting. I had no clue about that.
Yeah, no. So he came back to me and he told me, he was like, look, I want to team with you and Dapper. And I was like, okay, awesome. In my head, I was like, damn it, I wanted to retire.
I wanted to call it quits.
Yeah, no, I was like, I could call it quits here. But, I went with it because I was like, I'll give it one more shot. And just I'd say first couple weeks of RS, I still probably wasn't putting in the time that I should have. We
Yeah.
still started off pretty well, but then we ran into the brick wall that was Charlotte and RBG.
Hmm.
Um, but then it hit me, and I was like, I really like this. Really is my last shot in my head, so I
Yeah.
really should start putting in the work. And the week or two before the promo or the playoffs, I just put in great hours. They were all good hours. Like I was putting in I was making the most out of every hour I was playing.
Yeah.
Same goes for the rest of my team, but especially like just in my head, I felt like I was fully prepared, and I haven't felt like that since I was in RLCS, so it was a good feeling. And then Dapper, of course, he's been out of the scene for forever, so he was kind of in a similar position as Shock. He has a lot of naysayers. He has a lot of people saying he's washed, he's done.
Yeah. Well, I think
Especially,
I think
yeah,
it's also it's a little easy to get caught up in that, especially because time and time again, like we've seen him go into the rival series, we see him go into those play-ins, and it just
yep,
doesn't work out quite the way
yep,
you expect. I mean, like the fact that
yep,
there was that meme of like, oh, this team could do a lot of damage. Like,
yep,
it's
yep,
I can imagine how much it sucks to be in that position, but
yeah,
I mean, that's why I find you guys so interesting as a team, is because you all came from kind of down in the dumps
yeah. No, we
to
did
make this crazy climb that y'all did.
for sure. Yeah, it's I couldn't be more proud of them. And Dapper has, again, like I said, all these people just constantly on his head, and he can just look at all of them and say you were wrong now, and it's a great feeling, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always a relief when you can prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
I mean, so I definitely sympathize with him in that regard. And I mean, good good on you though. I mean, being able to take that change of pace and say, "Hey, might as well just leave it all out on the field," cuz
Yeah,
I like hearing you say all the things of, "Oh, I'm in my field now for school and I'm liking it." That is all such real life stuff that I
yeah,
find myself sympathizing with, because I find myself in similar situations of like, oh, real life's kind of going well right now.
yeah, yeah. It's tempting. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's really tempting to just be like, I'm kind of good, thanks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is, but Rocket League's too cool to pass up sometimes, and
It really is. It just keeps bringing you back even
it
when you think
does.
you're done with it.
Yep, it does. It does
But
for sure.
so we talked about you guys there and a little bit of y'all's journey, but you and me talked for a moment about it right before the show. But RBG pulling off the wild, close to reverse sweep on Charlotte. They were
Yep,
down 1-3 in the
yep.
series, and then came back and won three in a row to make their spot. And I had said how last week I had predicted both of you guys were going to be the ones going through. You had other things to say, so I want to expand upon what we talked about a little bit more. So why don't you kind of let the audience know kind of like what your thoughts were going into it?
Yeah, so I mean, just going in, and this is to no offense to RBG, but I really thought like us and Charlotte and Chaos were like the three strongest teams. And that's I don't mean any disrespect when I say that, but I didn't think RBG would come out on top this weekend, and I'm happy that they proved people wrong. I'm happy they proved myself wrong. I just did not know. I throughout the season we hadn't scrimmed them that much, so we couldn't see much of them. They beat
Yeah,
us during the regular season, but um, we felt like those 2 weeks we lost 2 weeks in a row, and we just felt so off. And we kind of grouped back together as a team to figure that stuff out after those 2 weeks. So we just hadn't expected too much of RBG. Like we knew they were all three players were extremely talented. They're all well versed in RLRS play, and Seabass even has RLCS. He has 2 seasons under his belt in
hmm,
RLCS. But I just did not know they had that performance in them, and
yeah,
it was phenomenal to see, especially that first, like I said, that first match against Chaos. That was phenomenal. Where I thought that was just going to be Chaos all day. Chaos were looking great in scrims the week before, but
yeah.
RBG just comes in and makes a statement, and then the near reverse sweep against Charlotte's phenomenal. Like hats off to them. That was amazing.
Yeah, and that was one of the things too. Is a lot of people were looking at it as just, oh, it's going to be afterthought and Charlotte who go through. And I guess as a viewer, it's sometimes a little different. I mean, you guys get to see things a little closer
Yeah.
than the rest of us do, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's something about the consistency to RBG, and so I wanted like my big, and I made the statement because we had randomize on the show last week whenever we were making
Hmm.
these predictions.
Hmm.
And naturally he's gonna call his team, but whenever he made his predictions, he's like, my fanboy predictions are Charlotte and us, and my real predictions are Afterthought and Charlotte.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so even they acknowledged that there was something going on with consistency there, and he pointed to, and I'm curious if you agree with this or not, but he pointed to Aeon, and when Aeon is kind of off kilter, that's when the team kind of falls apart.
I see.
And so my main thing when I say it all was, if Aeon can keep himself in a good position, then I think the team can kind of stick it out and make a statement. And sure enough, what a statement they made.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent. I think, there's a weird connotation sometimes with that. It kind of makes, at least when I've heard it, it almost makes that player sound like the weakest, or
Yeah,
like the most wild card player. Like the
yeah.
team's entire play depends on him. Um, which I don't think is the case for Aeon. I have loved how Aeon has played for the past couple seasons. I think he's a phenomenal player. I
Hmm.
worried about stagnation, but obviously he proved me
Yeah,
wrong again with this performance this past weekend. So hats off to him again, individually.
yeah,
Um, but I think if he's playing well, that team is incredibly dangerous. But they shouldn't have to rely on him. I don't think they need to
yeah.
rely
I
on
think
him.
I think the main thing they were talking about was if he. I'm trying to think of how to phrase. Kind of like sometimes you just get in your head on your play and
Yeah,
stuff. And so
yeah,
I think the main deal was they were saying that he kind of beats himself up
gotcha.
whenever bad play happens, and so that
I
throws
could
the
see
team
that.
off because I mean, when you
Yeah,
have someone on your team who's kind of beating themselves down, just saying like, "Oh, like it's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
yeah.
It kind of brings the whole team down to an extent.
That's very fair. Yeah. Yeah, I
And
could see
so
him doing that.
when we were talking, I think, and he'll probably correct me later if I'm wrong, but because he listens to the show all the time apparently.
Yeah.
I found that out last week. But I'm pretty sure that's what they were trying to say whenever we had
Yeah.
that discussion.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure he wasn't trying to call Aeon
yeah,
the
no,
weakest, but
he
that
he
that
loves the team. He
yeah.
wouldn't dare do that.
No, yeah, that little rant was more towards viewers who hear that
Yeah,
sentiment, because that's usually something I see paired a lot, and that's
yeah.
something viewers need to understand that is not the case.
Oh yeah. So and so, if they're hot or not, the team will do well. So therefore,
Yeah.
they're the worst player. And in
Yeah.
some cases, it's just. I mean, you could say the same thing about Alpha with TSM.
Yeah.
Granted, he's the team carry.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
could say the
exactly.
same with Ghost.
Yeah.
You could say it for like Atomic. He's the team
Yeah.
carry. And so
Yeah.
if he's not doing well, the team is not going to do well because he's kind of the
Yeah.
one who elevates that team. I mean, he elevated that team so much more than I ever expected they were going to be elevated.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
And so, yeah, it was very interesting and awesome to watch that auto qualification tournament with you guys. Super proud of you guys, obviously, in RBG.
I appreciate that.
We had you before, and I've gotten to know you a little bit more as we've gone, and knowing Randomize and the whole RBG team for a while, I was super ecstatic to see that for all of you. And then we're going to take a quick jump over to Europe and talk about those teams for a moment.
Mm.
You gave a special shout out to AS Monaco on Twitter.
Mhm. Yeah.
But AS Monaco and Discombobulars, those are the two teams who have auto qualified into RLCS Season 9 for Europe. And
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously have something here with like iIgnite and Tigray in them, but
Yeah.
what are some of your thoughts about these teams? Because Discombobulators, they were kind of a team that came out of nowhere, but AS
Yeah.
Monaco, everybody really was looking at them to, of course, make that jump. Kind of like people were looking at you guys in Charlotte that way.
Yeah, yeah. So with these two teams, I'd say Monaco, out of all four teams that promoted, so like us, RBG, and then the two European teams,
Hmm.
I'd say Monaco looks the most RLCS ready, in my opinion. I think
Really?
they have, yeah, I'd say so. I think they have everything they need. I think they're already playing the style they want to before they get to RLCS.
Hmm.
Like with us, I think we still have a little bit of work and change of pace to explore before we the season starts. Thank God for the off season. Um, Discombobulators, I think they look phenomenal in RLRS. But they'll have to, now they're going to experience the pressure of RLCS, and I'm not just talking about like pressure from viewership, but pressure, like actual physical pressure from the other teams. And
Yeah.
when teams start attacking your net in the way RLCS teams do, you become a lot less, confident in your play, and
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to watch them play. But phenomenal story. I heard of the players from Six Mans, but I didn't know pretty much anything about
Yeah,
any of them, I
it
think.
seems like that's how it was for a lot of people. Like this team is just a
Yeah,
bunch of guys who they made it through play-ins, and I mean, similar story to you guys,
yeah.
made it through play-ins. And I mean, really, out of all the teams that auto promoted, actually, RBG is the only one who was
A
in Rival
returning team.
Series
Yeah,
the last season. So all of you
yeah.
guys came in through play-ins and immediately broke your way into RLCS.
Yeah, that's right. And also, quick shout out to Discombobulator's coach, Eclipse. He's one that I never knew he even coached, but I had met him in DreamHack Leipzig of when I was on Bread.
Oh, okay.
He's a good guy and looks like worked out for him. So
Yeah.
hats off to them.
No, it definitely worked out. He he helped bring them into, I mean, top shape to be able to do this.
Yeah,
And they finished first in league play, if I'm not
they did.
mistaken.
They did.
So I mean, it was super impressive to see their turnaround.
Yeah.
And you kind of made a statement there for a second, and I'm curious about it. But you've been to RLCS already, so you know what it's like there.
Yes.
You understand everything. What really is the difference between rival series teams and RLCS teams to help? Because
Y-
the average person doesn't seem to understand how a
Yeah.
team can come in, be top in rival series, and then just get blown out of the water once they reach RLCS.
Yeah. So it's a couple of things. So first of all, you're playing under a larger or larger viewership, so that you already have that little pressure like in the back of your head, like saying like I can't mess up, I can't mess up.
Yeah.
Most of the RLCS teams already aware of that pressure, so it affects them less. The speed at which RLCS teams play, much faster. They find each other quicker, they're challenging you quicker, they give less space, etc. And then I'd say most importantly is that RLCS teams are so much more efficient with everything they do. They make less mistakes. They capitalize more on your mistakes, and so it's like you have to play just such a more perfect game
Yeah.
than you did in RLRS, and it's a whole change of pretty much everything you knew in RLRS. It's like everything but harder,
Yeah, it's
much harder.
like the difficulty just got turned up on the game pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
But so decision making being one of those key things that kind of turns around a bit faster. These teams, like, they see a play happening and they know to challenge it a bit sooner than these rival series teams tend to.
hmm,
But going like, we already had teams come into the rival series or come from the rival series into RLCS in these last season in you guys with Bread,
hmm,
and over in Europe we had Veloce come in,
hmm.
both rival series teams, and y'all, I mean, even the peeps actually too. You all
Yeah,
kind of had that special thing to where you actually stepped up and were able to take it to a lot of these RLCS level teams. And
yeah.
it just you guys put in more work to kind of be able to give them that challenge, or like what was it that you guys were able to break? Because we have some teams who they come out of rival series and they're just flops. They really
They get
don't
stomped.
make
Yeah,
much. And then we have some like the ones I listed who just they run away with it, and it's
yeah.
one of those things you don't expect really.
Yeah. So there's a couple factors in that. One, and it's a smaller factor, but it's there, is there's a slight sense of complacency from those teams already just chilling in RLCS, just because they've
Hmm.
never really had a new challenge come up like
Yeah,
the new teams. Those teams you listed, all of them since they've been playing in RLRS already had the RLCS style like pretty much ready. They
yeah,
just needed to slightly kick it up, but they pretty much had everything else down. So they can come in, and once they start scrimming against the RLCS teams for the couple months of off season, they're ready to go right from the start of RLCS, and I'd say that's the main factor. Actually, it's just kind of those teams already having the RLCS style in their game plan from RLRS, and so it just translates right into RLCS, and they're ready to play.
Yeah. So like you made the statement earlier of AS Monaco. So you think that they're going to come in to this next RLCS season 9 and they're going to be able to make those waves because they've already kind of got that style down. They
Yes,
have their RLCS play style down to this point.
pretty much. Only suggestion, maybe pass a bit less because those will get cut off more. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, I think they know what they're doing.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Um, I mean, it's super interesting. I know I'm asking you like a lot of questions and stuff, but it's also just like it's super interesting to be able to hear from the inside perspective because sometimes we don't really get to know exactly what the perception is of these teams going through, and it's even better kind of hearing it from you because you've gotten to see so many different angles to the situation
Yeah,
that you can be a really good voice to it all. I feel,
yeah. No, I
and
love
given
talking
that
about it.
perspective. Is there anything? I mean, AS Monaco and this Combibos, congratulations to them. I think that they're both going to do really well in RLCS Season 9. Same to you
Yeah.
guys in RBG. Is there anything else that you want to add on this topic before we go into the upcoming tournament this weekend?
Um, no, I think we covered quite a bit, so no, I think I'm
Yeah,
good.
we covered a lot of ground in that.
Yeah.
So we'll start. So the coming up this weekend is the RLCS Promotion Relegation Tournament for North America and Europe. We're going to start over in North America. The teams are Cloud9 and G2 coming down from RLCS, and Chaos Esports and Charlotte Phoenix trying to make their way up from the rival series. The first matchup is Cloud9 versus Chaos Esports. The second match is going to be G2 Esports versus Charlotte Phoenix. So let's start with that first one. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
I think Cloud9's just gonna run away with this. I think it's gonna be a 4-0 or 4-1 in my opinion. And again, no disrespect to Chaos, but we've been scrimming this Chaos or this Cloud9 team for a week or two now, maybe 3 weeks, and they are.
They're
I've
hungry.
never, I've never actually seen the Cloud9 team, even when I was in RLCS, that hungry. Like I think they know what's on the line now, and they're
Yeah.
not messing around anymore.
No, I have been getting that feeling myself. Everybody, I keep seeing it on Reddit. People are just like, "Oh, like it's not gonna happen." Cloud9 and G2 are staying in RLCS, and
Yeah.
part of me is sitting there saying, "I don't know. Like they haven't had a really
Yeah.
good season. Like this is a really difficult situation to find yourself in." But then the other part of me is what you're saying of they have to be so hungry right
Yeah.
now.
And I think Cloud9's season is also kind of misconstrued a bit, only cause like that SSG series, they lose a very close game 5. Same with what was it? The Knights. They got reverse swept in there too. They also lost a
Yeah.
decently close game 5 if I recall correctly. Those series go the other way. They're 4-3 and no one's really making much of a stink about how their season went. It's like that's the kind of frustrating thing about these seven game seasons
Yeah.
is that there's not much room for error, and we don't have much of a sample size to work with, and so it's hard to make like conclusions about how a team actually played. And I think Cloud9 kind of fell victim to that. I don't think they were that bad.
Yeah.
Um, I think they have a lot more to say than what they did during this season, and I think we'll see that during this promotion tournament.
No, I would definitely agree with you, and I'll bring up the question later, but
Yeah,
I'm curious on your thoughts of because now you've gotten to play in both the RLCS 7 or 8 team league, and then you got to play in the 10 team rival series. So after we
mhm,
kind of finish discussing this, I want to get back to you on that
for sure.
because I'm really curious what your thoughts are on uh, playing those 2 extra games. Did it really feel like it made much of a difference and stuff like
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that. But yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think Cloud9 is probably going to run away with that game. I think that Chaos Esports, they've got a lot of fight in them, and
Yeah.
I mean, the team's really solid. I'm not going to say that they couldn't take it entirely, but I feel like Cloud9 is probably hungrier for this now.
Yeah. I'd agree.
And so Cloud9, they would move on to the winners final with that win. And then G2 Esports and Charlotte Phoenix. This one I feel like would be closer, but
Yeah.
I'm not I really don't know who I would want to call for this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you. It will be closer. I think Charlotte has I think if you don't know how to exploit their style, then it's a pretty good style.
Yeah.
Um, so that could work against G2 depending on if they're doing their homework or not. Um, but I think G2 will still take this match. I think they should be fine, although it will be closer. But G2 also is hungry. I actually think they're boot camping, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
I think they're in New York right now.
Oh, okay.
So they're they they're working hard for
Yeah,
this.
they got to keep this.
Yeah, yeah,
Have you done any scrims with G2 lately?
yeah. We scrimmed them in an hour and a half actually from this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
That's the team that you're playing that we talked about earlier.
yeah, yeah.
But you get that same sense from them that you do with Cloud9, or
To a lesser degree, but yeah, I mean, I still think they're definitely hungry. They don't want to lose. But I think that Cloud9 team is just scary right now. I can't see them losing. They're like that, and yeah, I'm not trying to like downplay G2. I think they still definitely want it, but just I haven't seen that Cloud9 team play like that in a while. Like
well,
even when I was in RLCS.
Cloud9, they are former world champions. I mean,
Yeah,
despite how bad their season was,
yeah,
they were the season 6 world champions. Like, they have shown that they have the skill and ability to take down every team in the world. It's
yeah,
just this was a really rough season for them,
yeah,
and they just couldn't seem to find it. And it kind of makes you question if, this is also just coming from the perspective of a fan and like analyst, not necessarily as a player, but
mhm,
like comments they have made about how they try not to take league play as seriously. I feel like to an extent that probably had something to do with it. Of they're not treating
yeah,
this like it's the world championship. They're not trying to go all out. But I mean, they've always been a LAN oriented team.
yeah,
Online isn't really where Cloud9 shines.
yeah, for sure.
And
Um,
so, I mean, that's kind of where my thinking came from on why they find themselves here.
yeah, I think that's a good point. And I'd agree with that. I do know they're a lane-oriented team. I know in their heads they probably aren't as, ecstatic to play in the online league
Yeah.
as they are at LAN. Uh, but yeah, you're right. It's not the mentality you should have in Rocket League's current state because we only have 7 games. So
Yeah.
every game is so important, and like they don't have that kind of leeway. But it's tough. I can't imagine the complacency of like it creeping in after being on
Hmm.
top for so long. So
Yeah.
it's definitely tough. I can't speak from too much experience, obviously.
I mean, since they've been there, since they've been in RLCS, they've just always been up at the top.
Yep.
And I mean, I can imagine after a while there's a sense of complacency, but more in the fact of you're not really looking to you're not really looking at these new teams coming in as much as you're just looking at your fellow rivals in Energy and G2 like they had, because really those were the two teams that they always needed to worry about. Other teams never really were anything to fear going into league play.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
mean, I can understand that to an extent.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So with that, that would put Cloud9 and G2 in the winners final. So that would move Chaos Esports and Charlotte Phoenix down to losers. Who do you think would win that match?
Um, that's a tough one because I think during the season it was really close too. Um, Let me think about this.
I'll pull it up here for me so I can take a look and see what their record was with each other.
Yeah.
Where's that little grid? There it is. So Chaos Esports and Charlotte Phoenix. Chaos Esports lost against Charlotte Phoenix 2-3.
Yeah. So it was game 5.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on again who's doing their homework because like when we played them during league play, they swept us, but we did
Yeah.
our work in the time between then and playoffs and it worked out. So
Yeah.
And I really like Chaos's coach, Sad Jr. I think he is a great analytical mind. I've talked with him throughout the season. He knows what he's talking about. Um, I think I'll actually give the edge to Chaos because I think they'll do their homework and I think they'll know how to exploit Charlotte and I think it'll
Hmm.
work. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a really close series too that they had during league play. So real quick, the league play results between these two teams. Charlotte took it 3-2. The first game was 2-0. Second game 2-0 in favor or first game 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. Second game 2-0 in favor of Chaos. Third game 2-1 in favor of Charlotte. Fourth game 2-1 in favor of Chaos. And then the fifth game was 3-1 in favor of Charlotte.
okay,
So it
yeah,
was a back and forth series throughout
yeah,
when they play each other. And that was part of why I chose RBG and you guys over Charlotte, because a lot of Charlotte's wins were really close series.
yeah,
If you go back and look at their record, a lot of their games went to game five. They
hmm
had 1, 2, 3, 4 that didn't go to game five out of 9
wow,
games.
yeah, you're right. I see that now.
And so that was part of why I gave the edge to teams like you guys, because when you guys went through a lot of yours are much more decisive. You only have 3 games that went to game 5.
Yeah,
Y'all's are either decisive victories or unfortunately they're a decisive loss. Like
yeah,
it was y'all really didn't leave a whole lot of room for leeway in how people felt the match was going to go. Whereas Charlotte, it was too close to where you couldn't really say eh, RBG may be able to win the next one, or it could be Chaos who wins the next one, or it could be FMG who wins the next one. There really wasn't a whole lot of ways to really argue it. I mean, Linked Up and Bullsend, those losses that they took still could have gone the other way because those went to game fives.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I think that's always an important thing people need to note. I know a lot of people came in saying that Charlotte should be, by far the most feared team, but like you said, they took a lot of games to game five,
Yeah.
especially in a lot of their wins. Especially at the end of the season when you compare, I think our last three results, we had a record of 9-1 or something like that. Um, Chaos came in really hot too. I want to say RBG like came in like decently hot too. I think Charlotte actually came in looking the shakiest. They had
Yeah.
the closest results, especially towards the end of the season. That I think people should probably look at that a bit more. But yeah, yeah, yeah,
When it was like for you guys, I mean, Charlotte's last 2 games both went to game 5. Y'all's last 3 games were either a clean sweep or you just lost 1 game. And y'all were going
yeah,
up against teams that were up in the standings too. I mean, Compadre is a formidable team that you guys took a 3-0 on. You
yep,
guys 3-0'd Bullsend. I commentated that game, and we commentated y'all series, and none of us were expecting it to be a 3-0. We all were
yeah,
like, oh, it's going to be a game 5. Bullsend after thought this will be close. And you guys just came in and dominated that one.
yeah. No, that Compadres series that week, because we played Compadres on that Friday and Bullsend on the Sunday.
Yep.
That like week, so that was right after the RBG loss. That was where I said to myself like, and the team got together and we were like, this is like our shot, so we need to like actually kick it into high gear, and that's when we started doing it. I made a lot of changes. I went back to, because I was the whole time I was exploring these like new controls, like these
Yeah.
new control schemes, like not
Trying
necessarily
to
like
like map out your buttons differently and stuff.
actually not even the bindings, more like sensitivities and all
Oh,
that.
okay.
And I just said, you know what, I'm going back to what I use in RLCS, and I'd say it worked. And
That didn't seem
it's,
too confident.
yeah, I mean the results speak for themselves, and
Yep.
the team, we talked about what happened, what went wrong, and what we should do better, and that's where we kicked into high gear, and that's yeah, it showed in our results.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it showed for you guys. So all that long-winded discussion to say Chaos we're gonna assume they take the
Yeah,
losers round 1. So that then puts Cloud9 and G2 up in winners, with Chaos Esports waiting for someone in the losers. Between Cloud9 and G2, who do you think is the first one to save their spot?
Cloud9,
Cloud9.
100%. Yep,
I would agree with you. I think this team, whenever they're on, they are scary good.
yep,
So then that just leaves G2 and Chaos Esports. Do you
Ooh.
think that Chaos would have enough momentum off of a win from Charlotte to be able to take down G2, who are coming off that loss, or how do you think that would go?
See, there's a well-known curse that team that falls from the winners finals in the promo tourney to losers finals usually has a tough time winning.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, because it's I would say it's kind of that realization of when you're up in winners finals, it's just win one game, you're done.
yep,
Whereas you go to losers finals, it's oh crap, we have to win this or we're done.
yep. Like our careers could potentially be
Yeah.
done. Yeah. So that is, yeah, it's a big like kind of pressure weight on your mind. Like it's you just came off a loss, the other team's coming off a win. It's like everything that could be going wrong is going wrong. If there's any team that could, claw themselves out of that hole, it would be G2. I think G2 will take it, but it will be even closer than the G2 Charlotte match.
So you think that one has the potential of going to game 7,
Yeah, 6 or 7,
6 or
but
7?
G2 takes it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're one of the people who predicts that Cloud9 and G2 will keep their spot.
100%. I think they're too talented to not keep their spot, even if they're having an off day.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about too, is just that hunger of it. I don't. These are two teams who we already said they haven't felt that in a long time,
Yeah,
and to kind of have that fire lit under them again, I think. I think if they win this, they come into season 9 with a renewed sense of vigor to fight for that top in a different way.
yeah,
So
yeah, for
Cloud
sure.
Nine, Cloud9 and G2 predicting to stick around. We'll have to just follow along this weekend and see if that's how it pans out. I would like those two to stay.
Yeah,
I think that having such big organizations in the scene, it's great for us.
yeah,
But
for
also
sure.
just, I mean, they're such talented players that, I mean, it would be a real shame to see them fall down to rival series, because you do have those teams who they go down to rival series and sometimes they don't stick together. I don't think that would be the case, but you kind of wonder if Cloud9 or G2 would maybe go to a different, like go buy another team
I'd,
in
I'd
RLCS or something.
yeah, I'd worry that's the case. I would
Yeah.
think it's
I
too
mean,
much of a risk
yeah,
to stay
it's
down
just
there.
it can go any way if they
Mm.
fall to the rival series, and so I mean, rather than add all those extra things into the already wild roster shuffle we're all expecting in the offseason that we are blessed with twice a year.
Yeah,
I don't think I want to have an organization shuffle in that mix as well.
agreed. Fully agree. We don't need that right now.
So the final official predictions we're going to give you guys are Cloud9 and G2 holding their spots firmly in Season 9, but with a little bit of a scare there for G2 in the losers bracket.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna hop on over to Europe now for our predictions there. The teams that are in this tournament coming from RLCS are Team Solo Mid and Complexity, and then you have coming from the rival series Method and Team Singularity. The first matchup is Team Solo Mid versus Method, and the second matchup is Complexity Gaming versus Team Singularity. So Team Solo Mid and Method, this one is definitely gonna be. It's kind of like the Chaos and Cloud9 one, like,
Yeah,
or no, it's more like the G2 and Charlotte one. I think it's gonna be really close.
yeah, I agree. Um, I think Alpha is, he was Europe's MVP last season.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely phenomenal. Metza is a great player. Remco, I know, had a lot of question marks around him, but I still see him as above RLRS.
Yeah.
Just on the lower end of RLCS, but I still think they're too good. But yeah, I agree. Method is a strong squad. Tadpole's phenomenal. I'm sure he's hungry. And then Burrito and Rix, this is their first time entering the promo tourney,
Yeah.
maybe even ever. I forget actually if they made it this season they were with Casio or not.
I think for Team Singularity, or no,
Or,
Complexity.
or for Method.
For Method, Rick's,
Yeah,
Ronde, and Burrito B. No, last season they were close, but they didn't make it to the promotion tournament.
yeah,
That was Veloce and Complexity who got there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but
But
Method fought really hard in the auto qualification tournament. They just lost game number one. Going down to the bracket, they lost game number one against Team Singularity 3-4.
Yeah,
Like, it was a close series.
it was. I remember that. I was watching that. Yeah.
And so, I mean, this team, I think they're just as hungry at this point. I mean, Tadpole again, he found himself kind of in a similar situation to you of, I mean, different in a certain way because his whole team disbanded, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that whole thing of you're no longer on an RLCS team and you're kind of trying to fight your way back and prove that you've got the chops to kind of make it there. And he's one of those guys who I think that he does. I think that whole triple triple team did have the chops to make it. Just unfortunately they couldn't get some of their personal stuff worked out.
Yeah. His story is a weird one because I always wonder like if because Ronicky left, if they maybe hadn't tried, because like I think him and Ronicky, I think it was pretty well known that him and Ronicky were trying other players outside of Casio.
Yeah.
So that just pushed Casio even further away. I never blame Casio for leaving.
No,
town.
I wouldn't blame Casio in that regard
I,
either.
it was kind of a power move. Like I actually supported it, even though I love Tadpole. Like if a player is thinking about kicking me, I'm gone the second I see a better opportunity, and that's exactly what Casio did. So, I think Tad, in a way, brought it onto himself. Although he probably like hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But so it's a little different. I'd say iIgnite's probably. I mean, iIgnite's actually like the exact same situation as me. He had to play through planes as well.
Yeah.
After getting dropped. But,
y'all situations are definitely more similar, I would say.
Yeah. But you're right. The hunger is there. He wants to make it back to RLCS, but I think TSM's taking this.
You think that Alpha is gonna be able to help kind of work some more magic for this team?
Yeah, I still haven't been fully convinced by Method. I love Rix and Burrito. Those are they're both hilarious, and I think when they're playing well, they can look very, very good. But I think TSM takes this.
See, that's interesting because I'm of the opposite mindset. I think Method would take it, just because, like, I do agree with you that I think that when Remco is on, he is above rival series in terms of skill, but some of his, like, I remember watching some of the games at the start of the season, and he just wasn't showing up for this team at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to watch some of their matches in the latter half of the season. I just remember watching them earlier on. And it was kind of the similar situation that you saw with Ghost of just like Atomic and Alpha both just kind of working so hard for their teams, and they're really the ones that elevated the teams. But I just, at the end of the day, when you're going up against some of these other teams that have so much experience, compatibility with each other, one guy I just don't know is going to be enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's also the thing of that match, is that one's just so close that I really don't know who. I think that Method's got the hunger for it, but Alpha is also... If Alpha continues to play the way he does and Remco steps up, I think the team takes it. I would agree with you on that sense of it.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and call Team Solomid as winning that one. So Method fall down to losers round one. Then Complexity and Team Singularity. Complexity coming off just a horrible season. I really feel for these guys because they earned their spot, and then they were one of these teams I was talking about earlier of they get there and they're kind of a flop, unfortunately. Yeah. And they took some of these really good teams to game fives, and they just couldn't close the book on the series, unfortunately. I believe it was, can't remember what week it was, but there was one week where they took on Reciprocity and Mouse Sports, and both games went to game five, but they lost both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they're a weird case. They looked in the off season, they looked absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like they were going to lands, finishing top 8 or top 4. I think they showed a lot of promise. And then this whole situation with Flakes trying to kick Greasy off the team arises. There's lots of team tension. There's twitlongers everywhere. There's speculation everywhere. And I was in full disagreement of Magnus and Greasy's move to actually stay with him. The second a player even after that success starts talking about kicking someone, they're out. In my head, that's I think you have to have full trust in each other to perform at your best level.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
in
if you know that one of your teammates is questioning if you should be on the team or not, it's really tough to keep that type of working relationship with them.
Yeah, and it's that I think that was a prime case of that. Flakes is obviously the most individually talented player on that team, but it's a team game, and
Yeah.
I don't care about individual talent at that point. If after that success you're thinking there still needs to be changes when it's about to be your first RLCS season,
Yeah.
like, come on.
And that was the
But
thing too, is when I heard that, and when I heard all that information coming out, I was so stunned because I mean, you guys have been doing so well. Why on earth do you think you need to change anything? You guys have been killing it in the off season. What
yeah,
on earth do you have a feeling that you need to change here? Because I don't see it. I
some
never
people
saw it.
I know some people will say that's like he's like just striving to get better and better, but you have to take it step by step. You can't just
Yeah.
jump up to the top instantly. And I think that's where, there's a lot of that's where a lot of people are divided. Some people think he can just jump straight to the top, some people don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think that's just a general approach to how you need to be looking at it. You want to build up the team. You can't just try to jam a bunch of puzzle pieces together and call it complete. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not always going to work out that way. I look at team everybody looks at the golden team of former Dignitas, and it kind of was a fluke. I don't think we're going to see a team like that again for
Hmm.
a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, if ever, just because the fact that we had three players who clicked as well as they did and were able to perform at a consistent level like they did
Yeah.
is
It was
so
unbelievable.
it was unbelievable. And it's just, I don't see how we would ever have something like that again, because it feels like it's getting more topsy-turvy as things go on. I mean, this season alone has proved how wild the game can be and how it can really just go any direction for any team.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I'm in full agreement. I don't think we'll ever see a dynasty like that again.
I mean, it's going to be I would be really hard pressed to even look at three players and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a dynasty team right there," because you always have those people who are saying, "Oh, what's your fantasy team?"
Yeah.
Even if you put half of those together, you wouldn't see anything really come of it. I mean, sometimes they would end up stepping on each other's toes with their play styles.
Yeah.
So I always look at that team as an interesting case, and just I don't think that being able to just kind of slot players in is ever going to put you in that position. I think it's going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of grinding, and just again having that trust, like you're saying, because without that trust, your team you cannot expect anybody to be wanting to work with you like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So to conclude that I think
that
I
long
think
rant we
Singularity is
had.
going to take that. Yeah. I know we didn't talk much about them, but um, I've known Godsmilla since I've pretty much started playing the game. He's been hungry his whole career. He's always wanted to make it.
Hmm.
Tho is a incredibly fast. Godsmilla even calls him a ball chaser, which is a good thing. Everyone needs someone that's going to go after the ball more than an average player. And
Yeah.
then Noli is I don't know him personally that well, but I've seen his play, and individually he's fantastic. So I think they'll take that serious.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. Just the type of play that they've had, paired with just how bad Complexity have looked this season,
Yep.
I think that's just a recipe for Team Singularity to clinch that one.
Hmm.
So with that, we have Team Solo Mid and Team Singularity go to the winners finals, and we have Method and Complexity down in losers round one. So going for Method and Complexity, I think that Method take that one.
Yep.
Personally, just I mean, all those things that we just talked about. Method, they I think that they'll bring that Team Solo Mid game really close,
Yeah.
and they'll come into that one with a bit more momentum than I think Complexity is going to be able to have.
Yeah, I agree fully. Um, Not much more to be said there. I
Yeah.
just
I think we talked enough about it to where people would understand why we're saying that.
yeah, it's just going to carry over, and especially coming after a loss, I think they'll be
Yeah.
even worse than they already are.
Yeah. I mean, just another loss on top of 7 losses in the league play. I mean, it's
Right.
just the current track record they're on just kind of proves where it's going to go most likely. So Team Solomid and Team Singularity, however, I think that this matchup becomes easier. I think Team Solomid's hardest match will be against Method, to be honest. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody else in this bracket is going to give them a harder match than Method will.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm in
what do you
slight
think?
disagreement.
What
I
do you
think
think?
Singularity is actually the better of the two between
Really?
Method and yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, they actually did win, so that's, I mean, that's not too hard to disagree with, actually.
Yeah, just like Singularity's their entire performance over the season, I think, was more consistent than Method. I think I already went through the individual Singularity
Yeah.
players. I have a lot more to say about them than I have to say about like some of the Method individual players. And yeah, I think Singularity is actually, I think they'll bring it to TSM. I think TSM will win. Um, but actually, and yeah, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I think Singularity falling from winners final, I think they'll actually avoid that curse and beat. I predict Method to be down there. I think they'll beat them down there too.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
They. So looking at that, so I'm gonna agree with you. I think that Team Solomid will take that one, so that puts Method up against Team Singularity.
Yep.
Looking at league play, however, Method 3-0'd Team Singularity.
Yep. It's I see a lot. I've seen this situation before. Us beating Charlotte. I see it happening again with Singularity and Method. Singularity getting 3-0'd and then coming back and giving it right back to Method.
Who were Team Singularity before they got picked up?
Flampersant.
Flampersant. Okay, I'm trying to find where they are, where their matchup was, so I can see like what the individual scores were.
Yeah.
I'm more just looking for the Method logo than anything at this point. There it is. So it was actually the second to last week.
Yeah.
So this was week 4. This was on the B stream. The games went 2-1 in favor of Method, 2-1 in favor of Method, and 3-0 in favor of Method.
That's very similar to when we played Charlotte too. They were all close games. I mean, I guess the third game not so much, but
at that point though, you have to pull a reverse sweep. I can imagine that's you may have closed the book yourself on that one.
I'm getting very similar vibes.
So you think that they'll survive that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm gonna go with your opinions on this because you know all these people better than I would. I always criticize myself on how bad my knowledge is of the European scene, but I'm trying to get better at it. But so we're gonna go ahead and call those our official predictions. So Team Solomid and Team Singularity are both gonna be the ones that we think make it through the promotion playoffs for Europe. So G2 and Cloud9 stay, Team Solomid stays, and Team Singularity promotes.
Yep.
I definitely would agree with that. I think that those are all pretty accurate. The only one that I could see going differently would be that Method Team Singularity one.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
That's the only one that I could see really being different. I do think Team Solomid will be able to stay. I'm really just counting. Whenever I make that prediction, though, I'm really counting that Remco is on his game.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say that if he's not, that matchup against Method and the second one against Team Singularity would be a lot harder. But so, I mean, would you disagree?
No, not at all. It could go either way, for sure.
No, I definitely think it could too. But that concludes our predictions for the promotion relegation tournament. And, that actually puts us right at about an hour. Surprisingly.
Perfect.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. Is that good with you? I know you got your scrims to head off to soon.
Do you want me to answer that Patreon supporter, or if not, it's perfectly fine.
Do you want to?
I can.
Probably the more accurate question.
If you don't mind the podcast going slightly over, I can.
No, that's totally fine with me. I wanted to get that question answered at some point, but I was like, I don't know if we could or we'd be able to. So I'm gonna read out the question real quick for the listeners, and then you can go ahead and make your
Yeah,
way through answering it.
yeah, for sure.
So, whenever we did the mailbag a couple weeks ago, we had this question. However, we didn't feel like we could answer it appropriately, so we didn't. And we were waiting for a moment like this when we would have someone who had more knowledge, like Satthew here. So, question is, could you guys maybe chat about what practice is like for pro teams? I'm just a D3 scrub. Practice for me is grinding training packs and workshop mods and farting around in free play. But I just struggle to picture a pro team showing up for work and bringing everyone and telling everybody to load up Dribble Overhaul 2.0. Let's grind that for an hour. What's practice like for them? Is it all scrims? And when a new skill appears on the scene, take Musty's new speed flip kickoff for example, does the entire process team sit down and grind that one skill until it's now part of their repertoire? And back to scrims. Do the teams adjust their play styles when they scrim each other so as to not give away their techniques and strategies or strengths and weaknesses before a major tournament?
Hmm. Wait, let me.
It's a very long. It's multiple questions, like phrased as one almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's break it down part by part. So at least with the first part, like asking about training packs versus scrims, practicing for pro teams. Usually, I'd say there's obviously some ranked grind, but there's a decent amount of like actually a good majority of pros will use a lot of free play and training packs and use those. Sometimes I'll see some of them doing workshop like challenges, but most of it is free play, some training packs, and then we all head into scrims. So usually you're wanting to do free play and stuff before scrims, then you hop in because you're now warmed up,
Yeah,
and
trying to loosen up and
it's
everything.
yeah, and it's 2 to 3 hours every night of scrim. So you'll play against 2 or 3 teams depending on what's coming up, what league you're in, because RLCS teams practice a bit more than RLRS teams. We scrim 2 times a night every night during RLRS. I know some teams didn't do that. Um, RLCS, I'm pretty sure every team would do two a night, and now actually this past season I've seen 3 a day have become more common for RLCS teams, so that's probably something we'll have to adjust. We'll probably have to start transitioning to 3 a day, especially for important matches.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess the question with that is
mhm.
how often do you see overlap between rival series teams and RLCS teams with these? Because you guys just promoted into RLCS, but you guys are scrimming G2 tonight, you said.
Yeah, like in terms of overlap in terms of play style,
Or
or
how often do you overlap in terms of a RLCS team scrimming with a rival series team?
oh, I see.
I'm not saying you guys are a rival series team, but y'all
No, yeah, yeah,
y'all just promoted to where
yeah,
I wonder if it's them trying to get experience from you guys being a team that they've already that is like at this level with the ones they're going to be going up against or what.
yeah. I misunderstood at first.
No, you're
So
good.
with that, usually RLCS teams aren't scrimming RLRS teams. If they are, they're scrimming top 2 or top 3 teams.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll use them to warm them up before RLCS matches because obviously RLRS teams don't have a game that day, so they're free to warm them up. Um, and other than that, though, it's pretty uncommon. Usually, towards the end of the season, like these past couple weeks, RLCS teams will want to get some time in with RLRS teams or potential
Mm-hmm.
like upcoming RLCS teams to at least see what they're about and
Yeah.
just learn a little bit. But there's not too much overlap.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't think there was, but I was just curious.
yeah. And then to continue with this question. So when a new skill appears on the scene, take Musty's new speed flip kickoff. Does the entire process team or does the entire team like sit down and grind that one skill until it's now part of their repertoire? No. That's an individual thing. If players want to learn something new, they learn it individually. They kind of learn it as they see it and decide if it's worthwhile. Um, but no,
Yeah.
the team doesn't get together and like work on that together. No.
Yeah, I would look at that one as definitely being a more individualized type deal. I mean, I can imagine there's probably numerous skills that you probably see show up that you're like, I don't think I need
Yeah,
that.
there's a large majority of them. I'm just like, what am I watching? And then with the last part of the question about adjusting play styles when teams scrim each other, um, no, some teams do play differently in scrims because there's no pressure. Um, I always tell my teams to play like they practice or practice like they play,
Hmm.
um, because I think it's important to get that down. Um, so it can kind of give away our strategies, but it's also up to us to do our homework when we're not actually scrimming the team to look at what their weaknesses are, and
Yeah.
so it should be pretty equal when we actually meet them. So I don't think most teams adjust their play style. Some are just a little bit more aggressive and a little less cautious than they would be on stream, which is an advantage I think for us
Yeah.
because if they're
You get to
going on a
play them
stream
in
more,
top shape almost.
yeah, yeah, and if they're going into like stream with like not actually having practice like they actually will play, then they
Yeah.
won't be as confident. So yeah.
Do you ever see teams kind of come in and playing differently, like they're trying something different with maybe how they rotate and stuff?
Um.
Or have you guys ever like gone into a scrim and decided, hey, let's maybe try this setup a
Well,
little differently or anything like that?
we'll try new things if things are going wrong. Like
Hmm.
if we haven't been playing well, we'll usually go over replays and review what exactly we were doing wrong, and then we'll be like, "Hey, remember we got to do this." It's not
Yeah.
necessarily new things. It's new things if nothing's working
Yeah.
and like we're losing. Like that's when new things need to be observed, or if we feel like the competition it's like pretty close and we're barely winning, then we need to make
Yeah.
adjustments. But other than that, no, we're just trying to play like we normally do, so we can practice our play style, what we're known for.
Yeah. Oh, and that was you mentioned it there a second. But like watching replays,
Hmm.
how much do you guys sit down and do that as a team, or do you all kind of do that on a more individualized basis as well? I imagine sitting as a team, you're able to kind of help critique
Yeah.
one another, but I can also imagine there might be times where uh, someone might not take the critique quite as well, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a the not taking a critique as well is kind of a issue that you need to figure out before you team with someone,
Hmm.
because at least with teaming with Shock and Dapper, they're both older, they're both more mature. We're all
Yeah.
able to honestly critique each other. And I actually with them before we even did playoffs, I like sat down with them and I was like, look, we have to be brutally honest with each other.
Yeah.
There's no room for like feeling okay. Like we have to leave our comfort zones and tell each other like, hey, you're messing up, and hey, like we need to do this differently.
Hmm.
um so that's just like, it's I think with a lot of the Rocket League pro scene being very young, that's like a skill that will develop later and it's just not there yet for some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, majority of the scrims and replay review will be team based, and we'll observe and talk together and have an open discussion about what needs to be done.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so that kind of concludes that question. But then part ways you started answering it, I did realize I didn't ask the question I had set aside for earlier.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and we'll ask this question, then we'll let you
yeah,
go.
yeah. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
But being that you've now played in both, because really now that I think about it, you're probably the only person who has, or no, you, I Ignite and Tigray are really like the only ones who have done
And
this,
Seabass, and Seabass.
and Seabass.
Yeah.
But what was it like playing the 7 games in a season compared to the 9? Did you feel like it helped having those 2 extra games? Did you feel like it? Did you feel different having to sometimes play 2 games on 2 separate days within basically the same weekend? You'd play on a Friday, then you'd also play again on that Sunday.
Mm.
Like, kind of, what are your thoughts of? Because now we are moving to that 10-team RLCS. So
Yeah.
do you feel better going into that, or what did you prefer, I guess?
Yeah. So I'll approach this in two ways. First of all, with like actually like how I was feeling individually and how the team was feeling. I think we all appreciated the 9 games because the season's already with just 7 games feel way too short. Where
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to play more, everyone wants to prove themselves more, and 7 games isn't a very big proof of
No,
anything.
especially when you only get to play one team once.
Yeah, right. Um, so just 9 games I think was a step up. It was kind of frustrating when I guess like for a team like Charlotte, they were like at one point like they had a really good record that last season they would have already guaranteed like top 4 pretty early, but And
Yeah.
for us too, we had a solid record, but we were like, dang, we have to play even more games to prove ourselves. But it's how it should be, and
Yeah. You should
we
have to
didn't
be
mind.
consistent for a longer
Yeah,
period of time.
yeah, yeah. You got to prove yourself, and you got to seven games does not tell anything. And
Yeah.
that from that other approach, and I already kind of mentioned it, but we just need that bigger sample size. That's not how I can't think of many sports leagues where like teams can play more games, but they don't. Like European soccer or football, like they do double round robin in all those leagues.
Yeah.
Obviously in American football, like you can't really do that because they beat their bodies up so badly that if you did a
Mm-hmm.
double round robin, I think like they're
I
the
think
injury risk would be
they
terrible.
kind of do it with their division,
Divisions,
but
yeah, like
not. And so that's another thing too is what would you say to maybe introducing a like division type system or something to that effect? Because obviously if we did a double round robin with 10 teams, the season goes on for a lot longer. It makes it a lot harder for them to be able to offer two championships or offer two seasons within a year, which is something it seems
yeah.
Psyonix wants to keep going.
See, well, so like if I were in control of everything, I'm like a diehard soccer fan, so I'm kind of biased, but
Hey, I
that
mean,
is like
it helps though, because I mean, they are so similar at the end of the day.
yeah, and that's like the format I've always dreamed of. Like having one world or like one season a year, I think I don't have an issue with that. It is like there are issues of will fans get bored of this, et cetera, and like it's tough, but I think that's actually the most ideal situation. Um, I divisional play could be interesting to like mess around with.
Yeah.
I I think they're
I don't know
already
how you'd even split the teams, but
yeah, that's the thing. Like they've already like kind of favored a soccer like format that I think they're just gonna keep heading in that division. And I think they're doing two seasons because like they can right now, but I think maybe in the future we might see just a one
Mhm.
season a year type thing, but it's just a really long season.
Yeah, just like a
Um,
double round robin season.
I know the players want to play more. I know we all want to play more games. Like we don't feel like what we're
Yeah.
doing right now is enough.
Well, and I feel that if they did that too, though, you could have those moments where teams like G2 and Cloud9 who were doing really bad with 7 games, if it was 20 games, for instance, they can lose
Yes.
those games and still come back to turn it around big
Yep.
time.
Yep. And I actually think that would happen too.
Yeah.
It's like those teams before it even hit them, they were already bottom two or near bottom two,
Yeah.
and
Before they had
I
time to even really register what was
right
going on.
exactly yeah, and I think this longer season would really kind of mitigate that issue, and I think it'd be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But so you did prefer the longer season though, having more games.
100% want even more games.
Would
Like bring them
you
on.
prefer to do it kind of what they did with the rival series, where you could have um, 2 games basically within the same weekend, or would you want to keep it the way they do it with RLCS, where max is you just play 2 games in the same day?
Ooh, that's actually a great question because me along with some others actually believe that a team we either think like when teams play each other on like in RLCS, every team should only play one game a weekend,
Mm-hmm.
or if like teams are playing two games, like those teams need to like both teams need to be playing two games because we feel like it's kind of unfair that a team gets a game on stream and then goes into a team that hasn't played yet on the
Yeah,
day. I don't see how that makes any sense at all. Like it makes
I
sense.
felt the same way.
Yeah, it makes sense from like broadcasting point of view, like you have
Mm-hmm.
to get these games in, but from a competitive integrity point of view, I don't think it makes any sense. And in my opinion, I would just like to see an extended season where you just have a game every weekend, or if you're going to do two, make sure those teams that are playing two like play against each other, or maybe introduce like I don't know,
Or
maybe some
would
fun.
you like them to do it kind of like what I was saying about with rival series, how you could have a game on Friday and then a game again on Sunday?
I didn't mind that. I like it
You didn't
better
mind
than
that too much?
I like it better than having 2 games on the same day, actually.
Yeah. I imagine having 2 games on the same day is just a lot of pressure because if you come out of a loss on the first game, it can hinder you going into that next one. But also, if you come off a win, it could help you.
Yep.
I agree with you on that competitive integrity side of it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if they would try integrating something like Monday Night Football, but Monday Night Rocket League.
I think that'd be sick. And like, people bring up the issue of like school and stuff, but I mean, look, we're all professionals. This is like what we're paid to do. We have to make time for it, and there's no excuse for you to not be able to play if you're getting paid the money you are. As I mean, heck, even our RLRS teams have to put in the time during the weekday, but they make it work. So why can't RLCS players?
I mean, you're in college and you're doing it, so
yeah, my whole team. Shock's in a full-time college student, and Dap is doing college part-time. Like we're all putting in time. And still
Dap actually missed part of the land because he went to go graduate.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
No, I was curious what your thoughts were on that because I kind of I already felt the same way as you, but I was curious if a pro player felt the same way.
Yeah.
But dude, we got through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say it's a productive podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to getting this posted and seeing what everyone has to say, but I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It was a phenomenal talk.
Yeah. Guys, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Once again, be sure to follow us here on Twitch so you can stay up to date with us as we go live each week. We'll be uploading this episode later on YouTube and podcast services for anyone who missed today's live recording. Satthew, why don't you give your plugs on where people can follow you and all that jazz? I'll also list them on our YouTube link, but for anybody who's on podcast.
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm at SatthewRL. And then on Twitch, I'm just Satthew. I do not have a YouTube account yet, but we'll see. And are you guys streaming on Saturday, or no?
On Saturday?
Yeah. Are you doing anything for the promo?
No, we're not.
All right, then shameless plug. I'm doing a watch party, so hit me up there.
Go for it. I'll try to hop in so that I can chat around too.
Yeah, for sure.
Like to hear your thoughts on it all.
Yeah, of course.
We'll see if these predictions pan out the way we think they will.
That'll be interesting. I'm excited to see.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most fun parts about doing this is we do our predictions, then you just wait a couple days and then you find out if you were even close to right. I got 3 for 4 this weekend, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Heck yeah. That's a good ratio.
I predicted Team Singularity over Discombobulators.
And I would have actually done the same thing. So yeah, fair enough.
I felt AS Monaco, and then Singularity had beat out Discombobulators, so I was like, this is the way it's gonna go.
Yeah.
I was more worried about my North American picks than the European ones.
Yeah, who cares about Europe?
But dude, it was so awesome having you. I'm gonna let you go so you can go get your scrim on with G2. So good luck in that.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, congratulations on your return to the Rocket League Championship Series.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and the team appreciates it too.
Guys, this has been Around the Scene presented by Playing with Rockets. I'm Ryan, that's Satthew, and it has been our pleasure to have you with us. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. See you next time.